Israel is sadly no stranger to security threats, and in the past few days, the Jewish state has seen an apparent uptick in attempted attacks and threats of violence. Our guest in the studio today is Knesset member and a member of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, Sharren Haskel, to help elaborate on what Israel is facing. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
So let's begin with, the recent attacks that we've been seeing coming out of the ISIS affiliate in the Egyptian Sinai. What do you make of the rockets and this attack and these recent skirmishes on our border?
Well, I think it's a desperate attempt of either Hamas or militant groups in the Gaza Strip, first of all, to try and save themselves. If you've been watching in the past few weeks, there have been huge demonstrations against Hamas. Some Palestinians are getting sick and tired from their abusive government. They understand that the Hamas is not leading them to a brighter or a better future, rather inflict more violence and hatred and more, poverty within their areas. And so I think this might be one of their last attempts in order to try and maybe, if you could say, save somewhat of their reputation in front, showing to the public as if they're fighting Israel. I'll tell you what, there's some speculation as well that it's actually an ISIS cell that came out of the Gaza Strip. We know that the Sinai Desert is quite a dangerous area. It's a nest for terror in the past few years. The Egyptians are trying to combat that terrorism that is based there as well. But up until yesterday, we very rarely saw any attempt of attacks. Usually we would get them from our northern border, around the Golan Heights. Some extreme groups will try to...
well, so I guess the question is, is Israel preparing for more potential attacks by ISIS? Or, I mean, how relevant is that threat to Israel right now?
The threats of terrorism are a real threat, not just for Israel, but for the entire world. It is advancing aggressively. We were able to hold them back by having a very strong deterrence towards them. But obviously, it is a possibility in the eyes of Israel that there might be more attempts of attacks. This is something, though, that we have been ready since the beginning of the Arab Spring as well, for those cases that might happen, and we're ready for it now as well.
Now, speaking of preparing for threats, we've seen recent reports showing that the Hamas terror group is back to its pre-2014 strength from before the Gaza conflict with Israel in 2014. Now, this is in respect to terror tunnels and rockets and armed forces. How is Israel planning on fighting this growing threat?
So it's important to say that they're not back to their full forces. There's going to be a long period of time until they will be able. But this is something that we're watching up closely because we are worried about it. But any kind of attack will be answered. We will not stay silent anymore. The life of our citizens are not less of a value from other citizens, and therefore we have to protect them.
Is the approach going to be different, though, this time around, given these reports that we're also seeing come out about how the Gaza war was not handled correctly?
I wouldn't say it wasn't handled correctly. I think we handled it quite well. Obviously, it's been quiet for a very long period of time. That's why we also let a lot of merchandise into Gaza, assisted in reconstruction of Gaza. We helped building a desalination plant for Gaza and a sewage treatment plant. So there's actually quite a good correspondence in the side of Israel because it was quite quiet and, there wasn't any attacks. If they're going to change this situation and will start those attacks again, Israel will answer in the same way we've answered before. We will not take any threats, any missiles being shot on civilians, and so...
Now, Israel has also offered humanitarian or more humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip in exchange for getting two bodies of IDF soldiers that are being held by Hamas and also two Israelis that are currently being held by Hamas. Is there a chance that Hamas will accept such a deal?
From Hamas from the spokesperson of Hamas, Israel has been trying to create contacts about those soldiers. The policies of Israel is that we don't negotiate with terrorists, and so this is the government position at this point. I hope, and we will do anything that we can in order to bring back those bodies back to their families. It is very important, but at the same time, we have to make sure we don't create a new threat that might create that might danger another Israeli citizens.
Great, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure. Thanks a lot.